Thank you guys for joining today's roundtable on loneliness. Today we have actually a couple close friends of mine from the United States, Hassan and Bao. They are what you call experts in loneliness. No, I'm kidding. They're good friends of mine, and hopefully today we'll have a nice, engaging discussion on the topic of loneliness and answer a few questions. And I guess just to get us, first started out. Is it acceptable to be lonely? Or let me refine this. What's the difference between being alone and being lonely? To Val, you can start.
Okay. So I guess for me, like being alone just merely just means by yourself, whether you're doing like an activity or just existing on your own. And I feel like loneliness is that, but also longing for like social interaction.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I agree with that. I would probably add on with loneliness. I guess it's more than longing for social interaction, I feel, because a lot of people say that they have experienced loneliness when they are at a big social function where they are having these social interactions. So I think going a little bit further, it might also be longing for just understanding from other people. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good part. Good point. I think also there's certainly a lot of shame around the idea of feeling lonely when it's I guess an aspect of life. People will go through this at some point. But I guess just to try to address this a little bit, is it okay if by a show of hands, and also I'll extend this to the audience as well. Have you guys ever felt lonely before?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Surprisingly, not everyone, but at least, yeah, it seems like the majority of the people here by far have felt lonely, and certainly I have. But especially this year has been very difficult, especially during the coronavirus time. And, as you said, Hassan and Bao, it's of course, we have the longing for social interaction can build loneliness. But also, especially when COVID restrictions are in place such that you shouldn't have social interactions, it makes it even harder to overcome the feeling of loneliness and address it. And I guess how has the coronavirus times affected both of you guys? Hassan, you can start.
I guess for me,
Or has it?
Yeah, it definitely has affected a lot of areas of pretty much everybody's life. But yeah, I guess it has changed the way that I think about interacting with people, and just sort of reframing how I can feel unity with other people that I know, even though we can't really see each other. But there was a long adjustment period to that. So like the first few months, actually after the first month, because the first month I feel like people were thinking, oh, this will be fine. It'll blow over in a few weeks. That did not happen. And after it sort of started sinking in that we're going to be doing this for the long haul, I think is when I definitely started feeling a lot more lonely, but also started to try and be conscious of the fact that if I don't do anything about that, it's just going to be a really bad time. So just starting to find other ways to feel togetherness with people. Eric, I think you're muted.
Sorry, such as?
Oh, so doing video calls with people more often, playing games over the internet, but like more social games, less pure video games. Just taking time to reflect on things, I feel in a weird way helps me to feel less lonely, even though I'm doing that by myself. Just like thinking and writing down the thoughts and the feelings that I'm having, just making them physical in the world so that they're not just inside of my head, which always makes things like 1,000 times worse for me.
Yeah.
So things like that.
Yeah.
So when you say like make things physical, do you mean like writing stuff down, expressing it in like certain ways, or I guess
yeah, for me with this, it's usually just writing things down, like writing down my thoughts or the like things that I'm upset about, things that I'm angry about, that sort of thing. And just because for me, when I'm thinking of those things and not writing them down, it becomes like just larger than the problem actually is, I find. And also I'm just constantly thinking about it. So just like having it there's the thought, that's what I was thinking. I don't need to think about it anymore for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And Bao, has COVID impacted you much, or how has it impacted you if it has?
So I think it definitely kind of made me realize how much I took like, like in-person like friendships and like social interactions for granted, because I kind of think I've always thought myself as someone who isn't like the most social person, or I guess more introverted, I guess. So I was like, thought I'd be like, oh, I'll be comfortable enough being on my own, for a bit is, maybe no big deal, hopefully. Thinking that, like Hassan said, like, oh, it's going to last like maybe a couple months and we'll be able to get through it, But I think it hit me maybe like a month in, being like, oh, I haven't seen anyone in a long time. Even like we can like, like I text my friends like kind of like very frequently. So I thought maybe that would be, kind of sufficient, or even doing video calls sometimes, or, being on the phone. But I think it kind of it definitely hit me, whereas like, I guess I get almost uncertain if sometimes like those connections are real, if they're not like in person all the time. So I think like what Hassan said, I definitely had to like really work on, reflecting on that.
But what do you mean if you don't know if those connections are real when it's offline?
I guess my thing is like, before COVID hit, it was mainly like me being out like at like events or in gatherings, because I guess playing shows and all that. So I assumed, oh, I'm around people, I should be okay, like, and being like, well, I know it's there, I don't really need it all the time. So but like once that's gone away, and like for a long period of time that has not happened, I think what Hassan said about like, what was it, focusing, what was that something that you said?
Like reframing
on, reframing like certain relationships and all that. Yeah, I guess kind of more or less finding out, not saying like what's real and what's fake. That's probably a bad way to say it, but I guess it definitely made me think about
what is authentic human connection.
Yeah, what is authentic? What is, something I want to keep, if that makes sense at all. But
yeah, that's very interesting. And I guess kind of I was wondering also if but both Hassan and Belle, both of you have music is a really important part of your life. and I don't know if I'm speculating here, but you know, well, one, how does music play a role in overcoming, say, loneliness? And I guess, does music play a role also in extending this authentic connection with something? For you, Val, do you have any thoughts on this?
It provides an outlet, but I think it also provides like a way to tell me that maybe, like, say, self-sufficient. I guess it can be like an empowering thing sometimes, to say that, oh, I'm able to create, oh, I'm able to do, you know, I guess certain things to, I guess not, I guess, yeah, I guess my issue sometimes is like when it comes to loneliness, maybe it's because I associate like dependency on certain things. Like, why I feel sometimes lonely is like, maybe I wonder if I like depend on the other person. If I need, like, feel like, oh, I really want someone to understand me. Oh, I really want someone, you know, to feel okay, you know? So I guess being able to say that, oh, I can express in however outlet that is, can reassure that.
And I guess
I don't sort of like, this is probably not the right phrase, but sort of like proving that you are a whole person all into yourself.
Yeah, that's kind of a good way to say it. Yeah, like, I don't need to have someone to be able to feel whole, but rather, you know, it's good to know that I can do that myself, which does ease that loneliness, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Is it the same for you, Hassan, or what is your relationship with music, and what are your thoughts about those comments?
That one is interesting. So about a year and a half ago, I did write a song that was like sort of about loneliness. And then it sort of, over the course of me planning it and making it, turned into a song about togetherness. So that was a time where it like purposefully helped with that. But this year with the pandemic, I think it's just been really good to be busy with something and doing like creative work. Because sometimes you can just sort of get lost for a while you're working on something. And while you're doing that and feeling fulfilled by it, you aren't worried about the people that you love dying because of a preventable disease. So that's been good.
Yep. Yeah, it is important to stay busy. Of course, yeah, it's also really sad at how far this pandemic has gotten, and you know, the mental health struggles that it has upon people, the physical health, as you mentioned, and yeah, and it's all very, very, very stressful. Well, I guess what you know, still talking about loneliness. Well, why is loneliness so difficult to talk about? Bao, you have any thoughts? If we can, it's fine. Also, if you don't yet,
get back to me on that.
Okay, yeah, no, Hassan?
I could see two things from my perspective. I think actually they're almost the same thing, but not quite. I think talking about loneliness, and if you are feeling lonely, that kind of feels like a failure. and uniquely with loneliness, it's kind of like you could think of it as a human failure, because that's like one of the big things that we have been evolved to do, is like feel connections with each other and build those connections and make strong societies. And so admitting that you feel like you can't do that, I feel like that can make a lot of people feel really uncomfortable at admitting to that kind of failure.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that can make it difficult. But also for me, as a man in the United States, I feel like, especially if you're talking to like another man, I feel like we have been socialized to not do that thing with each other, to not open up in that way. So regardless of if it's loneliness or just any other sort of vulnerability, I feel like a lot of people, especially men, are conditioned to not do that with each other, which is another big thing here.
Well, as a man also from the United States, but a man living in Europe, I can certainly say that the situation isn't better here. If anything, it's you know, well, maybe the stereotype Americans are famous for being loud and talkative. Perhaps we talk about everything except for loneliness, but at least we're loud and talkative. And unfortunately here, depending on which culture you're from, sometimes there is a bit more restraint, and sometimes even a bit more closed off even between people. So I agree, it's difficult to talk about these things, and it's unfortunate, and there's a lot of different layers that influence it. There's toxic masculinity that plays a role. There's potentially also modern society plays a role. We're all in different houses. COVID plays a role. Yeah. But Bao, you want me to give it back to you now? And do you have any thoughts about, you know, why loneliness is so difficult to talk about?
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I pretty much agree with what I guess what Hassan said, kind of building on that as well, on like maybe the shame or like that feeling of failure. I wonder if that also not only like say like not only for the person who is lonely, but I feel like when some people hear that too, do people who like hear that also feel like I'm comfortable with that? Is there like a weird?
So you're saying,
like,
go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just saying, like, I feel like it's not just the person who feels loneliness that feels like not the greatest, like kind of not the only one who feels like awkward or all that, but it seems like loneliness has a like a connotation to it. When someone hears someone who is lonely, you know, like when you hear your friend like say, I feel lonely right now, or you know, you just hear somebody come up to you
or at least
whatnot.
People are really afraid about the you know, the stigma they would get if they explain that they're lonely. They're afraid about they'll be judged, or afraid that they'll lose connection with the people. Is that?
Yeah, something like that. I guess it's more of like, it's not just the person who's feeling lonely, but also the person who's like hearing that, like who's on the I guess the receiving end, you know.
So it makes it harder to overcome because there's potential backlash.
I guess, yeah, in a way. I wonder if that's also a thing as well, because I kind of going back to like the whole masculinity thing is any sense of vulnerability is kind of more or less kind of shut down, you know, whereas like you kind of have to be comfortable almost on your own, and you really can't show that you're not comfortable about that. You know what I'm saying?
And it's really weird because like all of my good male friends, these two gentlemen included, like none of them would have any problem if I just wanted to talk about that sort of thing, but it's still ingrained in the the collective consciousness that that's kind of, you don't do that, even if everyone you know is fine with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you
It is
sound
really
desperate
strange.
or
Yeah.
something, you know?
This is kind of how, I guess, how taboo works. It's
Mm-hmm.
this there's an elephant in the room that you can't really address. But yeah. Actually, I also want to compliment both of you. Of course, you know, being open about talking about loneliness and being vulnerable about this. In fact, actually, you know, again, thank you so much for coming on last minute. One of the reasons why both of you came on last minute is that it was so difficult to find people who are happy to talk about many different topics, but very difficult to find people who are willing to actually talk about loneliness and talk about potentially their own loneliness. It's difficult. Okay. One thing I did kind of have a bit of a thought on when I briefly brought up the idea how, you know, modern society can also play a role in being lonely. I guess kind of an offshoot of this. How do you guys feel? What's your experience of loneliness in getting older, for instance, and leaving university? A lot of our audience is still in university in some way or fashion. They still have that, I guess, kind of network there. At some point, they may leave. What are your thoughts about this?
I'd say like you definitely kind of have to work to find like that network on your own, where, you know, like when you go to school, or yeah, if you like go to school, university, you kind of have that network just right there kind of given to you. I feel like, especially like back in college, you're just surrounded by people, and you're surrounded by people who, you know, share the fact like, oh, we're all in university, I guess we have that one thing in common that we have, and then we can also like kind of share experiences with that. It makes it a lot easier. But like once you're outside, I feel like even like in the workplace, you are still surrounded by people, by folks, but you definitely have to like put in, you know, put in the work to find that network again. Like, let's say this, I had friends, like, I guess it's kind of nice, I'm like still in the same area where I went to school in, but I definitely had some like close friends who left to where like I had to be like, you know, one, feel self-sufficient enough to feel comfortable being alone, but also on top of that is maybe it's time to kind of get into the habit of, you know, finding folks that I can connect with.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like, it's not given to me anymore. It's more just like I have to put myself in the position so I can be able to make those connections.
Yeah. And you can't just find people like on social media, for instance, that
Yeah.
can be your friends. You have to, yeah. And life gets busier as well, I guess. And
yeah. So you kind of have to make time, almost like schedule time to do that in a way.
I kind of, I'll let Hassan say something in a second, but I also want to make some personal comments on this. And what was kind of strange for me is that, you know, I oftentimes end up finding myself lonely at the most, what feel to be the most unusual times. But looking back, it makes a lot of sense. So for instance, I'll be very busy, right? I'll be engaging with a lot of people. I'll feel as if, you know, I'm so overwhelmed with my work, and sometimes messaging people, or at least a message, people messaging you when you're doing a lot of work feels as if you're very busy. But then the minute that you end up stop being busy, you're kind of, I find myself, you know, sitting sometimes on Friday afternoons. Of course, coronavirus, everyone's sitting on Friday afternoons. But yeah, I find myself after what feels like an extremely engaging period, of time. Now I have freedom to do something with people, but I'm just sitting here alone and don't know where people went, which is kind of weird. But that kind of feels, for some reason, also kind of an after effect of being really busy, is that I end up not taking the time that I need to build the relationships while I'm busy to make sure I have people to talk to, and then it's a difficult situation to get out of.
Are you saying that you experienced that before the pandemic, or are you saying
yeah, gotcha. Especially before the pandemic. I mean, during the pandemic, you know, also, but at least loneliness, I guess, in this case, is more pervasive than just finding myself busy. Yeah. Anyway. But yeah, so I guess to remind you the original question, how has getting older and, say, leaving university impacted you with loneliness?
Yeah. I guess for me, it's interesting because it's gotten easier and harder. Harder in the ways that Bao was talking about, just like logistically, like I'm not surrounded by people who are totally open to having more connections, or just have a lot of free time certain days and are out looking for people to connect with. There aren't 5,000 clubs within a mile diameter of me. So in that way, it has been more difficult, but I guess my experience in university was that I was very shy and didn't really make that much of an effort. I guess that's kind of not true. I like joined clubs. I was trying to meet more people, and I had a bunch of people that I called friends. It was just that I felt like I was not doing all that I wanted to socially because of those feelings. But then after leaving university, and it may have been sparked by the fact that like it is harder, so I need to work at it if I'm going to continue to have relationships. But I feel like since university, I've just engaged with a lot more things and situations where I would meet people. So I feel like I've definitely increased the I guess connections that I've had, even though like Bao was saying, it is definitely work, but it's felt easier to me because there was less of a mental block.
I can agree with that. Yeah.
Are you ever worried that if you lose these connections, then you won't be able to, it's going to be a lot harder to get them back? Or is it harder as an adult, I guess, that, you know, if then now you're reliant on potentially fewer people, but good connections, I guess, but are you ever worried about?
I think once you get the practice in, right? Like you said, Hassan, like you've got like one, okay, logistically speaking, it's more difficult because you're not in an environment where it's right there. But because, you know, like you said, you have to go out and put the effort to do it. You start building up like a skill, I guess, in a way, or a practice to say like, oh, I know now how to, you know, to meet folks and make meaningful connections. So I think for me, it definitely feels like I kind of have like the tools more or less to find, you know, to make those connections. I guess if anything too, what makes it easier that you can is that you can now be more selective. Right? You can, I think if you're like in a environment where you're surrounded by a network of folks, I guess you can kind of pick and choose, but I feel like there's like a certain expectation of how you should and shouldn't be, you know, to be part of said network at times. But once they're outside there, you can kind of work to pick and choose who, you know, who or where to make those meaningful connections, if that makes sense.
Mm.
Yeah, thank you. I guess one thing that I also like to get back to is earlier when we were talking about the difference between being alone and being lonely. And to tie this in also into the stigma that Val was talking about in you know, being alone or explaining to people that you're lonely and feeling the backlash that you might get. That does it ever happen that say for instance, if there's so much also apparent stigma of going to like a restaurant and being alone, or going out in public and being alone sometimes, and how does this play a role in feeling lonely? The concept that you may not be feeling lonely, but just the fact that you're being alone and assuming people think that you're lonely. Does that play a role in feeling lonely?
It definitely can, yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Hassan.
I was just going to say, for me, I don't think that those two things are really linked, because when I feel lonely, I guess it's not really about other people's perceptions of it. Like if I were to imagine myself going to a restaurant alone, it's not really that I'm worried that people will assume I'm lonely, or I don't think that it ties into my actual loneliness, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I think the reason why I don't do those things is because it seems weird just socially, but for me, I don't think it affects my actual loneliness, because I would just either ask somebody, hey, do you want to do this thing with me? Or like, if they're busy, I would just not do it.
That's interesting. Well, okay, so I'll take the opposite for myself, and actually someone in our chat also mentioned that it seems, well, it indicates that they also feel the same way. So I myself will sometimes be in the situation where I'll feel lonely, not necessarily because I felt lonely to begin with, but I want to go to this restaurant, for instance, because I don't know, I really like the food of the restaurant. I want to do something, and I feel that, and I'm happy to go by myself, but in order to show to this, I don't know, this vague body of people that don't really actually care that I'm there, but in order to show to them that I'm normal and that I'm okay going out alone, I'd like to have someone to go along, or I feel like I have to have someone else. And if I decide anyway to go out and do it, to go to the restaurant or to go to the park or something like this, then yeah, I'll feel as if maybe I am lonely. It's kind of strange how there is this kind of this
like, do you like try to put 2 and 2 together to like infer like, oh, I might be lonely because I'm doing these things alone?
I might be lonely because people might think that I'm lonely. Which it sounds strange, but yeah, it's
I can see that though. I guess I felt that a little bit, like if it was a thing that I was originally going to do with some people, but then nobody could make it, and then I still want to do the thing, but now I'm not going to do it because no more people are going to come with me. I feel like I have felt lonely in those situations. Just like, oh, I don't know anybody else to go.
But because no one else came to go, or because you felt that other people were judging how you felt?
I think it would be like the drop off of people causing it. Like, oh, I'm excited to do this thing with these people.
Yeah.
Oh, now there are no more people. Oh no.
I think I kind of go through, you know, two different bumps. So of course, if I wanted to do something with friends and then no one's actually around, then I'll feel lonely, and then like, okay, you know, I'll get the gumption and I'll go out anyway. And then I'm going out and then no one's around me. Everyone else is someone around, and like, maybe I should be around people.
Yeah, just stay home, dude. No.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't know why, but I guess I like suffering, and so I end up going out anyway. Causing myself.
Here's a question though I have
very
for
good. Yeah, sorry.
you, Eric.
Yeah.
Can you expound on that a little more? Because I know you to be somebody who will do these things alone and then walk away with 5 more friends.
Yeah. Thanks for the question, by the way, putting me on the spot. So I think one thing that's important also is of course to expand upon the impression of loneliness, and so yeah, so I think for some reason I'm able to convince myself to do things anyway, because I try really hard to think it logically, that, you know, the worst thing that can happen is nothing happens. That, you know, if I go out and do the thing, the worst thing that happens is I don't get hurt and I do the thing. So of course my emotional side of myself is saying, okay, you're going to feel awkward, you're going to be alone, and it's going to be shit. But for some reason I let that other side of me that tells myself you need to be logical win out. So I end up at the park. I end up at Clark Dining Hall in North Carolina State University. And I try to meet people over lunch, because I tell myself this is the rational thing to do, to meet people. It's very awkward, of course. I try myself to put, you know, I try to put a confident face on. After the whole ordeal, honestly, it doesn't, most of the time, it doesn't really help me feel less lonely. If I was feeling lonely, most of the time it's just me happy that I ran away from the situation and hoping I didn't make a fool of myself. I'm happy to see that, at least impression wise, it looks like I'm making friends. But I would say though that one of the things though that I am somewhat happy about is that, ironically, even though in the situations it feels like shit, and even though in those situations I do feel lonely, that I have actually made friends this way. I made friends with Hassan, for instance, by sitting next to him during our orientation day and being strangely open about myself and talkative, because I felt, okay, this is the only real way I can meet people. Given a few days,
told him, hey, I'm lonely, do you want to
I think what I said was, I'm lost, I don't know where my group is, please help me.
What did you say, or did I say?
You would have had to come up with me. I would never have said that to a stranger, but yeah, I just happened to be totally lost, so that was why that we are friends now.
Okay, cool. For reference for anyone listening, Hassan and I chronically get lost. So honestly,
it's a great way to meet people.
It's a great. You should get
out there in
lesson of
the
today,
middle of downtown and just say, hey, I'm lost.
I don't know where I am. Can you hold on to my wallet for me?
Yeah, that's how it works. We do actually have a couple of questions in the chat, so I'll ask you guys a question. So one person asks, is there a relationship between social anxiety and loneliness? Or first of all, I guess, do you guys have any experience with social anxiety?
I do, yeah.
Okay. Would you like to
Possibly.
expand upon it?
I was gonna wait to see if Bao was
Oh
gonna say it, or if he
yeah.
was like,
Hassan
"Oh
can
no, I'm
go
totally
ahead.
good."
No.
What was the rest of the question though?
That's the whole question. Okay. Let me expand it then. Is there a relation between social anxiety and loneliness? And can you describe a bit the relationship personally for you, Hassan, if you're willing to?
I guess the relationship as I've seen it is kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So the feelings of anxiety that I have experienced in social settings are usually like, oh, I can't reach out to these strangers because that's weird and they're going to think I'm weird and they're not going to want to be my friend, or I'm going to do something weird and then they also won't want to be my friend. Just like imagining lots of reasons for why this is not going to go well. And so then that prevents me from doing it. And then that feeds back into itself the next time, or I guess when I'm away from social situations, just sort of being like, well, shoot, I haven't made friends at this thing. Like if I were at a conference or something, like I haven't met people yet. I must be a lonely weirdo. And
so there's a timer. There's like a time limit that you have where you need to make a friend, and if you don't,
no, just like I'm licensed for a certain amount of friends per day.
You gotta meet
but
a
no,
quota.
just like psyching myself out of making friends then leads to a situation where I might reflect on not having those people or having those connections, which will then the next time where I'm in a social situation just make it so that I'm thinking, well, this isn't going to go well. And it's just like can keep repeating if you don't have something to stop that cycle.
Yeah.
I think building on that too, and I might have missed something, but it's also like, at least for me, sometimes it'd be like, at times I'm lonely. Maybe I'd be like, well, that's just how it is sometimes. And like, even if I try to meet people and then I'd be like, they probably don't want to hang out with me. That's why I don't have a lot of, folks to hang out with at this time and point. You know what I'm saying? So then, like, kind of like what you say, there's like a feedback loop around there. It's like, well, you're lonely because you don't have people to hang out with. And there's probably a damn good reason for that. So why even try? Even though like you're surrounded by like friendly ass people.
Yeah.
If that makes, I don't know. I feel like you kind of more or less try to say that, but
no,
sorry.
Yeah. No, it does make sense. I'm just, it sounds kind of toxic.
Yeah, and it's not exactly the best thing to have.
Yeah,
and
but yeah, no, I certainly do agree. It's difficult to, yeah. I mean, once you get in that situation where, I mean, certainly I've been there as well. Where what's if they don't interact with me, then I guess I'm not worth interacting with. Otherwise, I would have interacted with me. I think something I'll admit here, and it's actually kind of vulnerable. I don't really tell this to people, but one reason why I don't like celebrating my birthday, because I feel that if people would want to celebrate me, or if people want to interact with me, then they would be doing that without me asking for it, if that kind of makes sense. So I kind of feel, is that similar to with you?
I think, yeah, I think
kind
so.
Kind of tied with like self-worth.
Yeah. I guess, have you like known people who like associate like loneliness with, I don't know, wanting attention, or
yeah, and then you feel kind of that like you don't want to be that person wanting attention.
Right.
for some.
And
I don't think I've experienced that. Are you saying, like, do I know people who talk bad about people who might be lonely because they are
like they just merely want attention, and then folks tell you, folks that say like, don't give them the time of day because of that.
Wait, has that actually happened to you, or?
I've definitely known folks like that before, and obviously it's a terrible thing to think about.
Yeah.
But I wonder how prevalent that is, or would that also kind of build on that stigma of why we don't really like talking about loneliness, because it's associated with a lot of other things.
Well,
I mean, real quick though, like I feel like if you are literally like you do want attention,
like, but it's like, but why is that seen as like a bad thing?
Yeah, that's I think that's what I'm having trouble.
Well, I guess maybe the phrase here is it the concern of being desperate?
It could be, yeah.
And
so, like,
and also
you're saying.
Well, also, I'm curious. Also, what does being desperate mean? Because this is also kind of strange to me as well. There's like this easy shrugging off of someone if they're quote unquote being desperate or wanting, as you put, my understanding, wanting too much attention. Why is this a thing? And what is it?
I can't really put my finger on it of
I
what.
Think I want to say it is sort of stemming from a place where you want the people in your life, like your platonic friends, your romantic people, you want them to be desirable and like high quality person. And so if somebody is seeming like they're desperate or lonely or don't have a lot of social connections themselves, that can like signal to you, oh, there's probably something wrong with this person, even if you're not consciously thinking that. And I feel like that can possibly like devalue them in your head, like as you're making this split second decision about like what you think about this person. I feel like that might be part of it.
Which I guess kind of makes sense in this whole conversation Bao and I kind of had about self-worth. Is that, when you start tying in the conversation about being desirable or wanting too much attention or whatnot, then it's easy for the next thing to think about is what is my self-worth and am I desirable?
And that can become like a way bigger thing that just leads to bad things right there without you kind of going on with it.
We do have some more questions from the chat, some of which I'll just say that I don't think we're qualified to answer. So, but I'll say them anyway. How loneliness damages mental health, and I guess I wouldn't be able to say so many specifics about this and what the mechanism is, but I guess we could maybe talk about personal experience if you have. But yeah, how loneliness damages mental health, and also expands it and says, how is modern society making it more difficult, which we talked a little bit about, but perhaps we can do a little bit more. Do you have any first thoughts on the first question?
I guess personally, if you do like you and I are kind of talk about like mention how like having social connections can be linked to we associate with self-worth sometimes. So I guess with I guess especially, you know, for me having depression, where if you put so much focus or such emphasis on the fact that if loneliness is linked to self-worth, then, you know, like, or the amount of the lack of social interactions, or the feeling of loneliness is linked to like maybe a lack of self-worth, it's definitely pretty damaging, where I kind of get into my head so much too, where it's like, you know, definitely puts me in like a very bad, you know, not in a great place, or in a very unhealthy like mental state, to where like maybe I don't deserve to be, you know, happy. Maybe I don't deserve to, you know, you know, to feel okay about myself because of these, you know, of these things, which obviously is not, you know, logically speaking, it's not true, but it can definitely, you know,
again,
spiraling me down.
Thank you again for being so open about and being so vulnerable. I guess what's kind of interesting for me now that I think about it is, I guess you and I, Bao, have different mental responses to self-worth, in one sense, and different responses to various things. I think for me, what I end up doing is I end up just getting really busy, so I don't think.
Like, do you push it away, or do you try to use work as
I guess. I mean, I think slowly I've gotten a bit better with some things. You know, I guess as you get older, also things get at least for me, get a little bit, you know, get less harsh, and I become more comfortable with myself. But I would say that still now and historically, that I think, for instance, when I am more lonely after being busy, then like, well, I guess I should get busy again. Because I didn't feel lonely when I was busy. So then I end up just doing a lot of things so I don't have to think about my mental health. And of course, the more things you do and the more busy you are and the less you can handle being so busy is easy for burnout and easy for anxiety and all sorts of different things. So it's kind of a vicious cycle, unfortunately, on both ends. Either depression, I guess, in your case, potentially. Again, I'm not an expert.
Right. Yeah. I'm mainly just speaking for myself.
Yeah.
I can't really speak for other folks.
Yeah. But it seems that this could be the case, that one aspect of other mental health issues that we have is influenced by loneliness or by self-worth and stuff like this. Hassan, do you have any comments about this, or we can ask other questions as well?
What you all have been saying about self-worth being a big part of it. I also think there's probably just a toll from that feeling of not having people who understand you, regardless of whether that's true or not. I think kind of going back to what I said probably near the beginning of this, but like, it's such a integral part of the human experience to have a strong social network. So if you feel like you don't, regardless of whether that's true or not, I feel like your mind and your body are probably going to be stressed about that, just from a biological standpoint.
Yeah.
I could see that, yeah.
And I guess the second part of that question is then, how is modern society making this more difficult, making loneliness more difficult? Or
well, this whole pandemic thing, if they could just get that together.
Okay, fine. Yeah, I don't want to get too much into politics, but yeah. Which unfortunately it is politics, but
I guess when in terms of like modern society, would there be like certain modern social expectations one should have that makes things more difficult, or maybe how social media maybe has
Yeah,
maybe.
maybe we can bring up a few topics. So I would say, for instance, one, social media, like what you brought up. What's that role, or what could be that role? We don't need to address everything. We have about 5 minutes, and then we can close down this conversation anyway. But yeah, one, social media, and then two, for instance, just our work culture. You know,
Yeah.
cubicle, transportation, house. I don't know. You can choose and pick.
Well, obviously it's a little bit different now with how work is, but you know, in a regular workday, you would
Is it better?
have commute time.
Okay.
I guess it's really more time to myself, which is kind of nice to work like from home. I mean, I'm very fortunate for having that. Not everyone has that. But in a regular, like say in a regular like workday for most folks, like they spend a good amount of their time commuting and then just focusing on work with little time to put into building social interaction, making social connections. So I feel that could be a huge factor of what, living today is like, that could affect, how one could feel lonely. But I think what's interesting about with, like say with social media, is that, at least for me, maybe it's just how I use it, but it's like, it's been interesting being able to kind of, it's an interesting way to find social connections and all that you wouldn't be able to if you were only like stuck into one place. You know what I'm saying? You're now able to find, it, again, it takes work, but you're definitely able to have access to finding those connections that really you can feel at home at, or feel, find folks that do understand you or do share a lot of the, maybe some experience, or be willing to, share those experiences and whatnot with you to feel more connected, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That definitely makes sense. I've had a similar reaction with that. Like, I feel like because we are one, musicians, two, huge nerds, just being able to use social media to find other nerdy people making music, doing cool things with their craft, being able to engage with those people. That's not really something that you would be able to get very often in, especially where we are in the United States. It's not like a huge nerd or music scene, but it has it, but it's definitely a lot more accessible over the internet. Yeah, so social media, great actually.
Internet good.
Well, it's not. I mean, yeah, it's good to realize there's definitely multiple sides of everything. And Hassan, you nodded your head when I was talking about work culture. Is there something you wanted to mention there?
Yeah, I guess it definitely depends on your specific office culture and also just culture around work in your country in general. But I feel like you're kind of expected to do a lot for a job that does not actually care about your well-being, even if they are like taking care of you, which a lot of them don't, especially like with healthcare and things like that. But you end up giving a lot of yourself to this machine that I feel like a lot of people get introspective about it, especially at the end of a long week, but just thinking, man, I've put so much into this particular thing, and I'm not actually getting very much out of it. And it's making it so that I don't have time to find things that will give me a better sense of just groundedness or connection with people. So I think that's part of it, or can be part of it.
Like almost more than half of your day on, you know, on contributing to this thing without getting, you know, much gain, I guess, in terms of this like social gain.
And I guess also well, sorry to my audience for I guess leaving this comment to the very end, but in academia, especially during a PhD, I think, and it's particularly difficult because it's kind of a strange situation where in some part you're working for this entity, this academic publication machine that doesn't care about you. It only cares, you know, the term publish or perish goes around a lot. It just only cares about making at least the impression of work and publishing it. And also at the same time, you have this strange, you know, a lot of overlapping phenomenon. You have a lot of insecurities about self-worth because you need to make something. Other people around you are publishing or making something, or it seems like they are all the time. Maybe you're not maybe you're not making friends in the first 5 minutes, Hassan, at the conference, but in this case, we're not able to publish in the first year or second year or third year. And everyone else looks like they are. So then you kind of have this even more isolating situation going on where you feel you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, and you're isolated from your family and peers because you're also working all the time and don't have that much people that you can even talk to because you're busy. So it's, I think certainly there's a lot of things, I guess, for future discussions to also expand upon in academia, PhDs, the work environment, also after academia, what people can do. And I think also, since now that we've reached about an hour, we can close out the conversation. If you two, do you guys have any last comments that you'd like to make?
I guess everybody listening probably already understands the importance of this, but like just getting mental health resources, whether that is a therapist or something else like that. Especially in America, I feel like a lot of people don't think that those things are accessible to them, so they don't even try. But those things can seriously help. So if you are having troubles, please look into it. I guess.
Yeah. I guess getting to that, I guess, you know, anyone can benefit from it. You don't have to be like a certain person. You know, everyone. It's, you know, it's your mental health. It's not exclusive to certain folks. Everyone can very much benefit from getting help, either through a therapist or whatnot, so on and so forth.
Yeah, talking to friends, for instance.
Yeah.
But,
no, don't do that.
Don't talk to friends. They definitely can't help you.
But yeah, I think yeah. Thank you very much, Hassan, for bringing that up, and I think to expand a bit on what Val said about, you know, that everyone should get help. But I think also one thing that's important is that mental health isn't just negative mental health. You don't have to have a problem, or you don't need to decide that you have a problem in order to get help. Positive mental health is also important, and understanding what that is for yourself is also very important, and it's different for everyone. So yeah. So thank you everyone for listening to our discussion on loneliness, and we hope that you enjoyed it. At least I have. I was happy that I was able to express some of my own vulnerabilities. I really thank Hassan and Bao of being so open themselves. And
thank you for having me.
Yeah, And yeah, thank you everyone for listening. And
Thanks a lot, guys.
It's been good. Thanks all.